All right. Last week and earlier this week, we talked about early childhood education. It was a result, in actual fact, of a caller who was looking for a place to place her 4-year-old son, in actual fact, and had gone into a kindergarten and had been horrified at what she considered to be, well, the woke paradise that kindergarten was. And in the nature of that conversation, I have to say, I also talked to a former head of a kindergarten association who had left the association because she said it had become hopelessly politicised, and as far as she was concerned, it wasn't about educating kids or involved in early childhood education at all. It was about learning particular ideologies, and she felt that her kindergarten and the association that she was a part of had bought that particular view and had sabotaged, essentially, good education and good learning in the early childhood centre or sector. And I also introduced you to Te Whariki, which is a curriculum that's been around for a long time. I think it goes back to the 1990s. I'm pretty sure it started then. But it was updated in 2017, and an extraordinary affirmation of something called critical theory, which I have to be honest with you, I never thought was all that important. I thought, well, it stays on a university campus somewhere, they can go and talk about it. But no, critical theory moves well beyond that. Critical theory isn't designed to be just talked about. It is a view, a social, a historical, a political school of thought and philosophical perspective, which believes that basically knowledge, truth, and social structures are fundamentally shaped by power dynamics between dominant and oppressed groups. What it's doing in Te Whariki, God knows, but there it is. To So we're expanding on that particular conversation because I'm about to go and talk to Professor Alex Gunn. Now, Professor Alex Gunn is she's the educator of the educators, if you like. She is a professor of early childhood education. She taught as a child, as a kindergarten teacher, as I understand, or early childhood teacher in Christchurch. She then moved to her position, or to position at the University of Otago's College of Education, about a decade ago, a bit more than that. And she now teaches and researches in early childhood education, inclusive education, teacher education, and assessment. And she joins us now. Professor Gunn, Alex, welcome to the show. Love to have you on. Thank you for joining us.
Ata Māori, Michael, thanks for the invitation. Good to see you.
Listen, you've heard my introduction, and
Sure.
I'm interested, and thank you so much for coming on to the show. So I'm interested in having this conversation about how critical theory fits into early childhood education. But before I go there, I'm also interested in the training of our educators, full stop. There is a move now to take them out of universities back into teachers' colleges as well. You have some views on that. Is that a good thing or a bad thing on your view?
Um, well, I think that for early childhood teacher education, university-based education is good because in our particular field, it's very interdisciplinary. We have teachers who need to understand educational psychology, they need to understand how to work with families, they need to understand education, they need to understand young children. So, in a university context, you can draw from across the broad remit of our campus to build programs of teacher education that help keep our teachers broadly minded because as you know, having been an early childhood parent yourself, you don't educate the child without the family. And so the early childhood teacher has a broad remit in terms of who they're working with and why and how. So, I work in a university. I was university trained myself in teacher education, and I think it's a good context for early childhood
But can't,
education to
well,
be
the question I
housed.
guess I'd have, Alex, would be, but didn't teachers' colleges do that anyhow?
To a certain degree, yes, but not nowhere near. And I worked in a teachers' college, so understand that. But we had nowhere near the breadth of disciplinary knowledge and research and expertise that we could bring into the teacher education program because the teaching college system was really about teacher education and quite narrowly construed at that time. Now, I'm not saying that it would necessarily go back to that, but yeah, and actually, I don't know the context to which you're referring. I'm not hearing calls for teacher teacher education for teachers colleges to be brought back. Maybe 3 or 4 years ago, or 5 or 6 years ago, possibly. But yeah, so I
Did you
think
accept
that
that the quality of our teacher? Well, listen, I talk to school principals all the time over the last 3 years on the
sure.
show, and there is a strong belief, both from primary and from secondary school principals that I've talked to on the show, that the quality of teachers coming out of universities then or is declining, and that they are not ready for the classroom. Is that due to the education that they receive at universities?
I can't speak for those principals, Michael, but they tell us different things. So when we have 60 secondary primary school principals from all around the country here on a Principals Day in August of a year trying to recruit and secure our forthcoming graduates for positions up and down the country, they're here saying, gosh, we've come to Otago because we love your graduates. God, they're great. They're really ready to jump in and do teaching on day one. So, I think this
Well, that's
discourse around
yeah. I don't
preparedness
that's
is
cuckoo
not.
stuff. I've got to say, Alex, because I'm sorry, but I personally had experience of graduates coming out of Otago in the last couple of years with my children, and I have to say they were not ready at all, and that was commented upon by, and this is in the Otago region, by principals who employed them. Perhaps we just struck a bad lot. Do you think?
Well, I'm saying that principals have different conversations with different people, Michael. So that's my comment
But
on
this
that.
is on, yeah, well, when they go public on this show and they're talking to literally, thousands of people and they're expressing those views, then I would suggest to you that they're probably not playing games. I mean, they're quite serious about the conversation they're having. But the fact you haven't heard it is interesting. Can you move to early childhood education now for me? You would have
Sure.
heard, or perhaps heard, what I had to say about critical theory appearing in Te Whariki, which seems extraordinary to me, given that really it's about trying to teach 2, 3, 4-year-olds in early childhood education some of the basics of, I guess, just looking after themselves in life and before they head. What do you understand, before we talk about that, the purpose of early childhood education to be, Alex?
Michael, that is a fantastic question, and thank you for asking it because it's something that I've been thinking about overnight after I heard you say in the podcast, what do we expect our early childhood teachers to teach? This is a really fundamental question.
Mm.
Um, for me, early childhood education is about children's rights to an education. It's about supporting families in their very important work in raising their children. It's about helping children learn to learn so that when they leave early childhood education and go into whatever school or homeschooling or kura or wherever they go next, that they've got the strategies and the attitudes and dispositions to not be toppled over by the new challenges and opportunities that are going to be confronting them. So, Te Whariki is about recognising the competent child, empowering that child so they can stand up, be part of the communities they're in, and actually understand a little bit about themselves and their disposition for learning. Because we want kids to be heading off to schooling when they get more structured teaching opportunities to be able to know how to respond in those situations and do it well. So really, for me, early childhood education is about supporting children to learn to learn. That's our
Okay, so
remit.
what, developing within them a capacity for, or a thirst for knowledge to know. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Look, there's a really specific way that Te Whariki actually talks about this. They talk about the learner as someone who is courageous and curious. So that's someone who can find something that they might want to get interested in and involved in. Then they can trust the environment to get involved in that thing. They can persevere with it when it goes west. When they're trying to do something and then it all goes wrong. That they're not dissuaded by that because we need
So
children
are
to
you talking
develop
about
grit. We
resilience?
need
Are
them
you
to
talking about
persevere.
kids being
Absolutely,
resilient, Alex?
Yep.
Okay.
Resilient is a way to describe that. Excellent. And we want those kids to be able to talk about, express their ideas with others, communicate. And then we want them to be able to stand up and actually help other people understand what they know, so to make a contribution in the world. So those people
That's
who
an
can
awful
do
lot to
that
thrust on
can
a
learn
3 or 4 year
anything.
old, isn't it?
No, not at all. Kids, look, and actually, I just want
I
to
mean,
correct something, Michael. Early
sorry?
childhood education is from birth. So actually, we're working with children from birth, from very young. So actually, infants, toddlers, 1 and 2 year olds, right up through to school age. So we want these kids to take responsibility in the world. We want them to stand up. We want them to be able to have a voice, and we want to uh, make the environment so that what the children say and do really matters to them. They are actors in a community, just as they are in a family, just as they are in an extended family
Okay.
or in a
So
sports club.
how do you
So,
measure? Can I ask this question of you then, Alex? If those are the
sure.
aims and aspirations, and they seem all very laudatory and worthy, how do you measure whether or not you're achieving that? So what's the empirical evidence that you assess whether when they leave finally, whether the kindergarten or the early childhood centre, and they head off to
Mm.
a compulsory year with either year one or year zero at their local school, that they have achieved that end? How do you make that assessment?